Do you seriously think you can attend the gathering? Belinda smirked, her signature condescending grin in place. This isn't some backyard barbecue. This is Waldorf Elegance, a luxury hotel in the heart of Manhattan. We don't need a relative in cheap Walmart shoes. Alice held her phone to her ear, standing on the platform at Portsmouth train station in New Hampshire. The air was damp and cold. The gray sky loomed above, and gusts of wind carried the scent of salty sea air. Her breath misted in front of her, and she unconsciously tightened her grip on the worn strap of her bag. I just wanted to know the date and location, Alice replied calmly, though her chest felt tight. That's all. We thought you had disappeared somewhere into a factory or your trailer, Belinda added, and then the call cut off. Once, they had been almost like sisters. As children, Alice and Belinda played together in their grandmother's backyard in Connecticut. But over the years, something changed. When Alice's father died in a car accident, the family turned their backs on her. She was left alone with her mother, who soon fell ill. Money ran out. Bills piled up. And then, no one was there. No calls. No support. When her mother passed away, Alice was a 19-year-old girl with debt and a shattered heart. She moved to Chicago, lived in a tiny basement room, worked night shifts as a waitress, and studied online during the day. She dreamed. She fought for every opportunity with everything she had. One night, a traveling businessman stopped by the bar where she worked. He struck up a conversation with her about life, about startups, about resilience. 6 months later, she was working at his company. 2 years later, she founded her first luxury travel booking agency. And 5 years later, she invested in an old hotel in the heart of New York, transforming it into the Montgomery Grand Hotel. She reclaimed her name. And her dignity. Alice didn't receive an invitation to the family gathering in the mail. She found it on her aunt's Instagram stories. She scrolled through the mocking posts. This time, we'll all be together, without any extras. Without extras. That meant, without her. Alice chuckled quietly, sitting in her office on the 10th floor of her hotel. It was cozy, with a view of Central Park. On the wall, her mother's photograph, framed in black. Next to it, a diploma from business school and a small notebook with her earliest financial notes. In it, she had written, "Build so they can't ignore you." When her manager called to inform her that the Montgomery family had booked an event hall at her hotel for late May, Alice didn't hesitate for a second. She smiled and said, "Book them the best suites. Put their names on the tables. And make sure the new logo is displayed on the facade. Montgomery Grand? Yes," she said. "And let it shine." A few days before the event, Belinda sent Alice another message. "So, still stuck in your little hole? We're packing now. We need a break from all the poor people." Alice didn't reply. She simply walked to the window, looked out over New York, and thought. It's time to face the past, head on. The day of the gathering arrived. New York awoke bathed in bright sunlight, reflecting off the towering glass windows. While tourists swarmed Fifth Avenue, black limousines pulled up one by one to the Grand Montgomery Grand Hotel. Most of Alice's relatives had never even heard the name. They were simply told. A big hotel in the center, perfect for the family event. Belinda was the first to step out. Wearing an oversized hat and carrying a Louis Vuitton bag slung over her shoulder, she surveyed the scene with a smug smile. Behind her, her mother, Aunt Maeve, emerged, draped in a fur coat despite the warm weather. Uncles, distant cousins, their wives, and children followed, lining up with suitcases as one of the porters opened the doors for them. "Look at this place!" Belinda exclaimed. "Who would have thought we'd find such luxury right in the middle of Manhattan?" Poor Alice. Aunt Maeve sighed, pretending to wipe away a non-existent tear. She must be in some forgotten little town, dreaming of seeing something like this. As the crowd filtered into the lobby, the concierge greeted them politely and handed over the event schedule. Montgomery Family Gathering. Welcome dinner at 7 p.m., Liberty Ballroom. Main Hall, 2nd floor. Perfect. Belinda smiled. Just as we planned. Well, not we, Aunt Maeve. She put all this together. They headed for the elevators, oblivious to the golden letters gleaming on the hotel's polished marble facade, above the massive oak doors. Montgomery Grand Hotel. Only Belinda's younger sister, Emily, stopped, tilting her head back slightly and whispering under her breath. Montgomery. Like Alice's last name. At 6:55 p.m., everyone was gathered in the ballroom. The glow of the massive crystal chandelier illuminated a table adorned with wine, flowers, and name cards. The atmosphere felt like a wedding: chatter, laughter, selfies. Aunt Maeve praised herself for organizing the event while Belinda posed beside the grand floral arrangement of roses. Then, the lights dimmed slightly. A soft piano melody played. And, from the far end of the room, the grand double doors swung open. Alice entered. She wore a deep burgundy sleeveless gown, elegant, poised, and assured. Her hair was styled into a refined updo, a delicate pearl necklace resting against her collarbone. She walked with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged. For a second, the entire room froze. Alice? Aunt Maeve whispered. Is this a joke? Belinda scowled. Alice stepped to the microphone near the stage, lightly touching it. Good evening. I am Alice Montgomery. Thank you for joining me at my hotel. Welcome to Montgomery Grand. A silence so sharp it could be cut with a knife filled the air. Belinda's eyes widened. Your hotel? She blurted out. Is this some kind of prank? No, Alice said calmly. 5 years ago, I bought an old hotel and turned it into this. And today, you are here because I allowed you to be. The initial shock rippled into a storm of emotions. Someone began clapping. It was Emily. Others stared at one another in confusion. Aunt Maeve sat down, as if all the air had been knocked out of her. So, you're successful? Belinda spat, failing to hide her bitterness. And we thought that I'd fail? Alice interrupted. That I'd remain the poor relative who didn't deserve to be here? I didn't fail. I grew. After her speech, waiters began serving dinner. The family sat in silence, each of them processing their shattered version of reality. Only Emily approached Alice during dessert, her voice soft. You were never extra. And I'm glad you're here. That you finally rose above them. Alice thanked her, smiling. She no longer wanted revenge. It was enough that she stood in this room, not as a guest, but as the owner. Her name on the building's facade was the answer to all the years of silence, pain, and dismissal. The past never lets go so easily. After the shocking dinner, when everyone had retreated to their rooms, Alice remained alone in the hall. She walked to the window and gazed out at the New York night. Headlights flickered, taxis weaved through the streets below, and the city felt as if it never slept. There was no peace in her soul either. Everything that had happened tonight, though satisfying, had stirred wounds she had spent years hiding behind the armor of success. She remembered the day she was truly alone. She was 19. Her mother had passed away after a long battle with cancer. Alice stood by her bedside in the hospital, holding her cold hand. She would never forget the moment Aunt Maeve appeared at the door, gave her a fleeting glance of sympathy, and simply placed an envelope with the address of a women's shelter on the table. We're all busy, child. Life goes on. We can't take on another burden, she said, and disappeared from Alice's life for many years. Alice still believed that family would help. But Belinda never answered her calls. Other relatives said, "Stay strong," before hanging up. She sold everything she had, her old moped, her laptop, even her mother's jewelry. With that money, she bought a one-way ticket to Chicago, a city that seemed to her like infinite possibility, the embodiment of freedom. The first months were brutal. She lived in the basement of an old building, where cockroaches crawled along the walls. During the day, she scrubbed floors in a cafe. At night, she delivered pizzas. And all the while, she took online courses: marketing, business, psychology. Alice wrote everything down in a small notebook, the same one she kept in her office now. In it, one phrase had become her mantra. If they won't invite me, I will build my own table. One evening, while working as a waitress, she served coffee to a man in his 50s. He sat with his laptop, deeply focused, reading about investments. They exchanged a few words. Then again. And again. A week later, he left her a business card. My name is Jonathan Hale. I'm looking for an assistant, but I have a feeling you're capable of much more. She could hardly believe it. But she accepted. That was the beginning of her real journey. Under Jonathan's guidance, she learned to see beyond people, to see potential. He taught her strategic thinking, analysis, the ability to read a room. Within a year, she was managing small projects. 2 years later, she founded her own agency, specializing in booking elite luxury travel experiences. The idea came when a wealthy couple wanted to host their wedding in Greenland, but no company dared to handle the logistics. Alice did everything herself, from charter flights to a locally curated menu. From that moment, her name circulated through the elite world by word of mouth. Then came bigger clients, more complex deals. And finally, her own capital. One morning, she woke up, looked out the window at an abandoned midtown hotel, and felt, this should be mine. When she purchased the decaying Regal Plaza, investors questioned why she was tackling a project most had ignored. But Alice saw beyond the rubble. She breathed new life into it. She poured her soul into its walls. Every room held pieces of her childhood, lavender-scented candles reminding her of her mother, books on the shelves that she had once read in that basement, and even framed photographs of old New Hampshire, where her story began. This isn't just a hotel, she would say. It's my story. Stone by stone, pane by pane. When asked what she wanted to name it, she didn't hesitate. Montgomery Grand. I want those who forgot my name to never be able to ignore it again. Back in the present, Alice stood by the window. Behind her, the hotel's signs glowed, waiters cleared tables, and her relatives scattered into their rooms, some humiliated, others stunned. Belinda had been the first to flee. Alice held more than just ownership over the building. She held the story, her story. And now, she was deciding how this chapter would end. And though revenge had seemed sweet, another thought emerged within her. Maybe I didn't rise this high to humiliate them, but to prove that I am worthy, even if they refuse to see it. She quietly exited the hall, closed the doors, and walked toward her office. The night lay ahead. And in the morning, the final decision. The morning sun bathed the hotel lobby in soft light. Everything gleamed, from the marble staircase to the polished door handles. Guests slowly made their way down to the restaurant for breakfast, but beneath the usual chatter and laughter, tension lingered. The previous night had left them speechless. Alice was already there. Sitting at a corner table, sipping black coffee, scrolling through her emails. Congratulations, admiration, business proposals. After revealing the truth last night, even those who had once forgotten her name were reaching out. Can we talk? A familiar voice broke the silence. Belinda stood before her. No sparkle in her eyes, no arrogance in her stance. Her lips were pressed together, hands trembling. Alice nodded. Belinda sat across from her. I didn't know, she began, then hesitated. And you didn't want to know, Alice replied calmly. I expected nothing else. Listen, I was foolish. Arrogant. We all were. But you could have said something earlier. Let us know you were successful. Why? Alice took a sip. To earn an invitation? To be accepted? I wasn't seeking anyone's approval to be myself. Belinda remained silent. I'm not angry, Alice continued gently. I lived through it all. And I forgave. But I'm no longer the girl who can be dismissed with words like you're too poor. We misjudged you. Belinda sighed. And I don't know if I can fix that. Alice held her gaze for a long moment before saying, You can start with an apology. Not because I need it, I'm standing just fine on my own. But because you need it. You, and everyone who thought money defined a person's worth. Belinda lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, Alice. Truly. Alice nodded. I accept it. But learn from this. Because next time, you might be facing someone weaker. And not everyone can endure what I did. That evening, Alice stood outside the conference room where the farewell dinner was being held. But this time, she chose not to attend. Instead, she climbed to the hotel rooftop, wrapped herself in a light blanket, and poured a glass of wine. The city shimmered around her, the night sky stretched overhead. She thought of her mother. In her mind, a voice echoed, "Life isn't about what others think of you. It's about who you become." And in that moment, she felt who she had become: strong, whole, independent. She had gone from humiliation to triumph. And she had done it without hatred, without revenge. Only with dignity and perseverance. She no longer sought approval. She built herself and her world. As she returned to her suite, Emily approached her, holding a cake box. We all gathered, the younger crowd, without the adults. She smiled. Want a real ending to this gathering? Alice paused for a moment. Then, she smiled. Yes. But on one condition. What condition? Next time, the gathering won't be at the hotel. It will be at my home. And I'll cook. Emily laughed. Deal. And they walked away together, leaving behind not just the hotel, but the shadow of the past, which no longer had power over them.